fun. I would say it's the transitional phase of life. It's very natural. It's a natural part of life, but it's leading into menopause, where in
Hmm.
menopause, our hormones are really low. They really start to decline. Your reproductive years basically come to a close. And I think this perimenopause time is that time before menopause. And menopause is
Hmm.
really, you haven't had a period or, menstrual
Your
period for
cycle, yeah.
12 months consecutively. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
time that transition can happen. And I've heard anywhere from 8 to 10 years as far as this
Wow.
transition. I've heard 12 years. I've heard 15 years. I
Wow.
have a friend whose mother said it took her 20 years to make the
Oh, no.
transition.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of She's Got It Together. I'm your host, Jessica.
And I'm Samantha. Each week we peel back the curtain on what it really looks like to have it together.
From the messy moments to the milestones, we're here to share it all.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's dive into today's topic.
When was the last time you looked in the mirror? Probably not that long ago, right? Were you comfortable with what you saw? Did you feel like you're aging gracefully? I don't know if I am. I have not quite decided yet. But I'm Jessica, and we're here and we're going to talk about perimenopause. It's not a great and exciting topic, I guess. I mean, it's a good topic, but it's not exciting. So today I feel like is going to be a little bit heavier than we usually do on our episodes, but such an important thing to talk about. And with me to help with this is Tina Haupert. She's from Carrots and Cake, which like I just told her, I love the name of this. It's so appropriate. But she's going to be talking about the stages of perimenopause and how to navigate those challenges that come along with each one. So Tina, welcome. So happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat about perimenopause, one of my favorite
I know.
topics.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. So before we get started, can you kind of give us a little bit of background, how you became so knowledgeable on this subject?
Yeah, so I'll give you the short and brief version of all this because it is a long story. I've been on the internet for 16 years, so I've
Oh my
done a
gosh,
lot of
yes.
things over the years. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think honestly, it's just because of my own health struggles and
Hmm.
just facing a lot of dead end when it came to, I should preface this by saying I love the conventional system as far as medicine goes. I love doctors. I love prescriptions. They're great and wonderful, but I just feel like I was jumping through hoops, working with
Yeah.
doctors, going in, complaining about hormonal symptoms, just not feeling my best, gaining weight out of nowhere. And I just feel like I wasn't getting answers. And this went on for like a good decade. You know what I mean? Just like running
Oh,
blood
yeah.
work, having
Frustration.
these conversations and just leaving my doctor's office, not feeling any better, feeling more lost and just hopeless
Right.
and helpless. And I just kind of got sick of it, to be totally honest. And I had
Take
done the
control.
whole
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'm not getting answers. There's got to be a
Mhm.
better way. And really, what was going on is I had been on hormonal birth control on the pill since college. So,
Yeah.
all through my 20s, into my 30s, I had my son when I was 34 and then went right back on the pill. And at
Hmm.
that point, I just felt like a crazy person. I did not
Yeah.
feel great. I always tell this story because I just think it's so funny. I was standing at the kitchen sink doing dishes. And I remember my husband walked behind me and his existence just annoyed me. The fact that he was just
That's
in
not
my
good.
kitchen walking behind me. And I just remember being like, this is not normal. You should not
No.
hate your husband for no reason. And my hormones were a mess. And the thing that kind of drove me crazy is that I would go see my primary care doctor, my OBGYN. I saw multiple doctors during this time.
Yeah.
And the solution was always the pill. And I was like,
Right.
no, I want to not be on the pill because it's making me crazy. And I just
Hmm.
wasn't getting answered. So fast forward, I ended up becoming a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and I learned how to read functional tests. So I know how to read a Dutch test and blood work and mineral testing and gut testing. And really just that holistic functional approach really changed my health. But it
Yeah.
took a lot of time, energy, education, money, investments,
Yeah.
craziness to get to this point. And now that I've healed my body, my hormones are a lot more balanced. I just want to be able to help other women. And that's what we do at Carrots and Cake.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, this is such a an important topic, like I had said. And I think it's relevant to more women than, are willing to admit. But yeah, I think this is going to be really, really interesting conversation. So let's kind of just dive in, but let's start with the basics. Like, what is perimenopause?
Yeah, I think this is perfect place to start. But yeah, perimenopause fun. I would say it's the transitional phase of life. It's very natural. It's a natural part of life, but it's leading into menopause, where in menopause, our hormones are really low. They really start to decline. Your reproductive years basically come to a close. And I think this perimenopause time is that time before menopause. And menopause is really, you haven't had a period or, menstrual period
Your
for
cycle,
12 months consecutively. So there's a lot of time that transition can happen. And I've heard anywhere from 8 to 10 years as far as this transition. I've heard 12 years. I've heard 15 years. I have a friend whose mother said it took her 20 years to make the transition. So I've heard all different things. And we're starting to see this perimenopause transition start earlier and earlier, especially like working with women one-on-one. We'll see it start, mid to late 30s. I think most women will start seeing changes when they hit their early 40s and mid 40s. But yeah, this can take a while to fully transition into menopause. So it is very natural. It just, hormones start to slow down. I've actually heard perimenopause referred to as reverse puberty. Just like, when you're hitting puberty,
No, that's
start
funny.
to get more and more hormones. This is the opposite. You're having fewer and fewer hormones.
Yeah. You're losing
it's
them.
kind of
Okay.
like a crazy time as far as the hormones go.
Yeah. And I guess what I find interesting is that you don't hear about perimenopause nearly as much as I think we should. It's just menopause. You either are in menopause or have gone through menopause or, and that's it. Like that's what I've heard for years. So this whole concept of perimenopause just fascinates me. And it's just a topic that I think needs more. I mean, just needs to be spoken about much, much more often because it'll explain this crazy season that we have, like it's just that it's not you, that there's something hormonal going on with you. It's not, you're not losing your marbles. You're not whatever, like you can't necessarily control it all. So, I mean, this is really, really, really important for sure. So what are the different stages? I mean, I'm guessing since it's a block of time, I mean, it can be significant. If it can be more than 10 years, there's got to be different stages within it. Is that, am I thinking correctly here?
Yeah. And I can kind of talk about what you might experience. Of course, this is going to be very different for every woman. And I really do think there's so many symptoms that can kind of go into this time. And we're not talking about it all that much. I think it's starting to get a little bit more traction because I think there's so many of us that get to this phase of life, like you have kids and then you're not quite in menopause, but like a lot of weird things are happening hormonally. So I would say there's almost like 3 main stages. And I would say it's early, mid, and late. And again, this is going to be different for everybody. And I think there's a lot of like fuzzy gray areas for this, but I would say the early, it could be, late 30s, mid 30s, early 40s, but you just start to see more hormonal shifts as far as maybe your periods get a little bit heavier. You start having some sleep disturbances. Cycles might start to get a little bit shorter. You might have, night sweats before your periods or headaches around your periods.
It's like you're every symptom here, right here now. You're diagnosing me.
Yes, so it could be early perimenopause, but you're just starting to notice these symptoms. You're just kind of like, oh, that's not what I'm usually used to. And it might not be so bad, but you're like, things are definitely different. I would say anxiety starts to pop up then. I feel like I hear that a lot from ladies where you just can't handle stress like you used to.
Yes.
I would say mid perimenopause is like when you're in it. And I would say you are definitely noticing symptoms like your periods are suddenly heavier. Your cycles are getting shorter. Like you were the girl, basic B, 28 days, pretty regular all the time. And then all of a sudden you have like a 23-day cycle and then a 25-day cycle. And then maybe you have a 27-day cycle, but you're starting to see shorter times between your periods. And then same thing, like you might have a really heavy day and then things kind of taper off. More sleep issues, night sweats. I mean, you might have some hot flashes or something like that. Again, it kind of depends on the person. I do think this is where you start to notice more issues with like blood sugar and weight gain energy, like peaks and valleys as far as how you
Yes.
feel. And then I would say the late perimenopause is where your cycles actually get longer. And a lot of times that's
Okay.
because you don't have enough progesterone to sustain
Mm-hmm.
that full cycle, or maybe you're not ovulating. And that can start happening where 1 month you might ovulate and the next month you might not. And then you'll have a 40-day cycle or a 50-day cycle. And then that will continue to happen. The periods will just get longer and longer apart. And then you are officially in menopause once you've gone 12 months without a period, which is also kind of fun too. We actually have a practitioner on our team who she was at like 375 days or something. And she's like, oh my God, I'm officially in menopause. And she's pretty excited about it, to be honest. And then she got her period.
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh my gosh. So we're not in menopause. We're going to do this whole thing again. So,
oh, yeah, it's almost you want that closure. You just want to get through it, like just know where you're at.
Yep.
I mean, gosh, what a path though. But yeah, you definitely are speaking to the choir here with that. I don't know. I mean, it's like a box of chocolates basically with your cycle. Yeah. You never know what you're going to get.
And the hormones really do fluctuate a lot. Just like I was saying with like reverse puberty, like you could have high estrogen and low progesterone, or you could have low estrogen and low progesterone. I don't think you really ever have high progesterone in perimenopause. You never know. Anything's possible. And then dealing a lot of times with low testosterone, although we've seen high testosterone too. So again, it really depends. And this is where, hormone testing could be helpful. But I don't think anybody needs a test to navigate this period of time either. I think a lot of it really is listening to your body.
So you can feel your body. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. So, I mean, age wise, we kind of touched on this, but so basically like late 30s, mid 30s kind of is a typical starting period for that.
Yeah, it depends. I would say I've seen 40s too. It really just depends on the woman and her overall health.
Got it. One of the questions I had, which I don't know if you'd be able to answer this or not, but so I had a lot of fertility issues getting pregnant with my kids. And like my cycle was all over the place. But I just wonder if that has any bearing on going through the next phases of womanhood. I mean, is this something that's going to cause me to, have or be into menopause earlier or later or anything like that, or even, different fluctuations within perimenopause? Is there anything that, concrete that actually can change just with fertility issues at a younger age?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously I would want to run some testing on you, get to know you a little bit better. But I think if you had, irregular cycles at that point in your life, I don't doubt that you'll probably have some irregularity in perimenopause because it's so common. Yeah. But I think you're also probably predispositioned to it a little bit more too. But again, it depends on so many factors. And we could talk about some of the things that could make this transition easier too.
Yes. Let's move on to that. That sounds more fun. Let's go and talk about, like what exactly we can do to, I guess, calm the waters, maybe.
Yeah. And I think one thing that is important for ladies to know is that if you have any sort of hormonal imbalance, your hormones are usually the last thing to be affected by what's going on in your body. So I always like talking about, I use this image when I'm teaching our clients, is that it's almost like an iceberg where on top, sticking out of the water, are all the hormone imbalances. But then below the surface of the water is really where all like the root causes are. So a lot of times if hormones are out of balance, it could be related to gut issues. It could be related to stress. It could be related to blood sugar and insulin issues, lack of minerals and nutrient deficiencies and things like that. So a lot of times if there's a lot of hormonal chaos essentially going on, a lot of times you have to look elsewhere because the hormones didn't just get off just because, you know what I mean? There's something driving those hormones and making them out of balance. So the way I like to sum it up for our clients, or at least make it easy, because it really is so personal. And obviously that's what we do at Carrots and Cake. Like we're very personalized with our approach and recommendations, and we really try to get to know our clients. But two things happen when our hormones start to decline in perimenopause. And one is we just become less resilient to stress. And I think if you think about how you lived your 20s and your 30s, like you could do a lot of crazy things. I always joke that you could stay up all night drinking beer, and the next day you could go for a 5 mile run and you're going to lose 5 or 10 pounds before your vacation. Like you can do all these extreme things to your body. And because you have all those extra hormones and great cortisol levels and adrenaline and all the
Yeah.
things, you can do all the things and your body bounces back. Your body can recover to that type of treatment. But as
Hmm.
those hormones begin to decline, we become less resilient to that stress. Like, I don't know about you, but I can't
Yeah.
stay up all night anymore. I can't even drink more than like a couple
No.
glasses of
And
wine
my
without feeling like,
nerves,
yeah,
my nerves
yeah,
are
yeah.
like shot. I mean, I have a
Yes.
short fuse now.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest things I notice is even with my kids, much shorter fuse, but I have this, I don't know, like fears now, different fears are so much bigger to me. And it's weird because it's just like, 10 years ago, it was no big deal. Yeah, I didn't like it, but it wasn't like causing me to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
yeah, it is crazy all the changes.
Yes, like the stress resilience for sure. But yeah, just how you handle a situation or how quickly you are to like snap at your kids or your dog or something
Yeah.
like that. Like I just
Yeah.
feel like I was a lot more chill and balanced at one
Yes,
point.
exactly.
And then in my 40s, I was
Felt
like,
normal.
what is going on here? Like, why am I upset that my husband is walking near me? You know what I mean? There's just like these mood things that I like, this is very
He's breathing my
different. But
air. I
yeah, we
don't
just
know.
become less resilient to stress. And then what goes hand in hand with that? So we work with a lot of ladies who want to lose weight and change their body composition. But like, I'll hear this a ton. Like, I gained weight out of nowhere. I didn't change
Mhm.
my diet that much. I didn't change my exercise. Like, why am I gaining weight? And our bodies also become less sensitive to insulin. And insulin is an important part of this whole blood sugar, weight gain, weight loss, and whatnot. And we'll see a lot of like insulin resistance, prediabetes working with clients. And a lot of times when you run your blood work through a doctor, things are quote unquote normal, but
Right.
a lot of times those ranges are for the conventional population, everybody in the
Yes.
population, which includes healthy people and not so healthy people. So
Yeah.
your insulin might be normal where you don't need insulin or medication or something like
Right.
that, but it's not optimal for you to feel your best. And especially
Yep.
if you're struggling with hormone issues, a lot of times we can backtrack it to blood sugar issues or insulin issues. So for our clients, I hate saying this because people are like, okay, they're like rolling your eyes, but you need to manage that stress, which I think for a lot of us, it's setting boundaries, saying no,
Yeah.
asking for
I
help.
know.
It's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard being a mom, especially like a working mom and a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism mixed in there.
Mm-hmm.
We attract those type of people. And then also just
Yeah.
being really on top of your nutrition. And if we want to get into the specifics, we could talk about that too. But I think those are the two things. If you just realize I can't treat my body the way I used to. And also
Right.
like this blood sugar insulin thing. Yes, it's important for like weight loss, but also just how you feel as far as energy and mood and just getting yourself through the day.
Yeah. Keeping yourself balanced. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that's really, really important. Now, as far as the weight gain and things like that, something that I've noticed, I mean, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir again, but do you have suggestions on, is there a diet that you should be following? Is it very personal, person to person? I mean, what are we looking at with that?
Yeah, I would say personal for sure. And again, that's, what we do over here. We're very personalized as far as our recommendations go. And that's why we use the functional testing. It's really helpful.
Hmm.
But I would say kind of like the pillars of perimenopause and weight loss and just looking and feeling your best. Number one is always building muscle. And, if you're a product of the 90s or even the 2000s, I think we were all obsessed with cardio and running. I mean, I used to do marathons,
Tybo, my gosh.
marathons, boxing and the elliptical and, you
Yeah.
know, cardio is great. But I think when you get to your 40s, like the more muscle you have on your body, the more resilient your body is going to be.
Right.
But also like your body's going to look a very different way. And of course, the more muscle you have on the body, the more metabolically flexible your body will be as far as, burning calories when you're sitting on the couch and sleeping and whatnot. But the other thing I don't think women realize is that muscle is almost a sinkhole for that glucose and insulin. So the more muscle you have on your body, the more balanced your blood sugar is going to be. And I always joke, the more muscle you have, the more cookies you can eat. You know, you can be a
Right?
little bit
Hey.
more flexible with your diet. It doesn't need to be
Yes.
perfect all the time. So I would say building muscle is a huge one. And as far as like the nutritional recommendations, we're big on protein. But
Hmm.
protein is great for building and maintaining muscle, but also keeping that blood sugar balance, keeping you
Yeah.
satisfied. So you're not craving sugar and cookies and things like that all day.
Right. Right.
And fiber kind of goes hand in hand with that too. So fiber can mitigate that insulin spike. And of
Hmm.
course, it's going to fill you up. It's good for your gut health. So those are kind of like the main things we focus on. We also love walking, just
Hmm.
because you're moving, and every time you're moving your muscles, your body's becoming more and more sensitive to glucose and insulin. So I
Hmm.
would say those are kind of like the big dial movers. And then, of course, it's going to depend on the woman and kind of where she's coming to us in this whole journey. Because
Yeah.
some ladies are really dialed in on their nutrition, they're counting macros, they work out all the time. And then we have other people coming to us where they're eating, you know, Pop-Tarts and Starbucks for breakfast and like they've never worked out. So it really just kind of depends
Right.
on the person.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely understand. All right. So, I mean, let's kind of move away from the weight aspect. Because I kind of feel like weight, yes, it is very relevant in this perimenopause, but it's something that we, like me, I've struggled with this my entire life. So, you know, it's something that, I don't know necessarily changes drastically during perimenopause. Maybe it's just the way that you need to lose it or to maintain it and things like that. But, you know, with the things that we're losing, so minerals, what do you recommend as far as maybe supplements or getting those in different, you know, foods? What do you recommend for women in perimenopause, you know, to consume?
Yeah, I love minerals.
Mhm.
It's probably like the thing that changed my life. I don't want to say life. That sounds like really dramatic, but you know, I've been on this health journey for a while now, but I think when I discovered minerals, and when I say minerals, it's really just seeking out foods that are high in nutrients and high in minerals. I think I really was the product of the 90s and 2000s where it was just about calories. And I ate a lot of like diet
Yeah.
food, processed food, a lot of Quest bars and
Hmm.
light fit yogurt. You know what I mean? It was all about the
Hmm.
calories. It really wasn't about the nutrients in the food. And when I switched my thinking on that and just started seeking out good quality, wholesome foods, I started to feel so much better. So
Hmm.
I'm talking about
Yeah.
like red meat. I think so many people are scared of red meat. And I'm like, actually, red meat's like really nutritious for you.
Hmm.
Fruit. I mean, I've avoided fruit and fruit juice for, I don't know, 20 years. I had too much sugar,
Right.
too many
Sugar.
carbs. You know, I eat a lot of beans and lentils and squashes and oats and things like that. So really like seeking out these nourishing foods. So with minerals, like when we are stressed out, we'll lose minerals. And the example that I share with our clients is if you've ever done any sort of endurance event. So I used to run marathons and half marathons and do all that, but my skin would actually get salty from me sweating so much. And that is your body losing sodium. I mean, that's an electrolyte.
Right.
I mean, this is obviously a very extreme example, but anytime we are stressed out physically, emotionally, mentally, our body loses minerals. And so if you think about eating a lot of diet food that's not loaded with nutrients and minerals and whatnot, and then you add in exercise, that endurance training, pregnancy is a big one. I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
think about what you're doing. You're growing that little human, and then you were giving
Yeah.
birth to that human. And then if you decide to breastfeed or, you know, nurse that child,
Hmm.
you're taking so much nutrition from you and minerals and whatnot. So a lot of times moms are just left depleted. And of course, we're exhausted. You know, we're taking care of this tiny human. You know, we're
Hmm.
not sleeping. We're probably not feeding ourselves the best, but also you've lost so many minerals and things that will give you energy. And minerals are quite literally the spark of our cells. So if we lack those minerals, we're just not going to feel our best. And the minerals actually run the enzymes that run our hormones. So if you're dealing with mineral imbalance, if you're dealing with fatigue, I would say that's probably like the big thing. you probably need a little bit more nourishment in your body. And we'll see that a lot on tests. We'll see just kind of like low minerals across the board. And if you have low minerals in your body, it's very depleted and you will actually feel like that. Like it'll be hard to get out of bed in the morning. You'll need coffee to get going. You have that like afternoon slump. You hit the pillow, like the second you get in bed, you're just totally exhausted. You just feel like you're dragging your butt everywhere. I think that would be a good indication that maybe your body needs like a little bit more nutrition as far as some of those like nourishing foods go. But I think you did ask me about like what minerals are important.
I know. Well, I mean, all minerals seem very important, but yeah, like there's specific ones, that we kind of want to watch for, or that we could, just consciously make sure that we're eating better.
Yeah. So we like, again, I think the testing is really helpful because it looks at like what your body needs, like in particular, as far as like where are you depleted or what minerals might need like a little bit of love. But I think across the board, and this is what I do with our group coaching clients, is that we usually start them with potassium, magnesium, and then sodium, those three electrolytes, just because they are kind of that spark. And especially on the potassium front, so many of us don't get enough. So we always start there. And that's not one that will normally supplement. Our bodies just absorb it better through food. And if you think about some of the top potassium foods out there, they're really healthy for you. So, our favorites are potatoes, bananas, avocados.
That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah, coconut water. Did I say avocados?
Variety.
A lot of avocados. Yeah, for sure. And we actually just tell our clients, you can Google a list. I mean, we have a list that we give our clients, but every single day, just prioritize those foods. And same with magnesium. That's where we might add a little bit of supplementation as far as the magnesium goes. Because again, a lot of us are deficient in it. And magnesium is so important. It's involved in hundreds, if not thousands of processes in the body. And again, when you're stressed, it's one of the first minerals that we lose. And then same with sodium. I think a lot of people are still kind of afraid of sodium, or like they don't want to get too much sodium. And
yeah, it's got a bad rap, I'd say.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on the person. And if you're somebody that exercises on the regular, I would say you definitely need the sodium and potassium for sure. The magnesium probably too, but I would say those three are where we start. But again, I would definitely push people more towards the whole foods before adding in any sort of supplementation, because I don't know, I just feel like you have to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So why not prioritize those foods? Put those foods in your shopping cart, plan your meals around these foods instead of just, taking a pill.
It's a good habit,
Totally.
as opposed to just popping a pill. I feel like that's what we do these days. I mean, that's what's always pushed. But, the other piece of this is that, minerals aren't talked about very often. I mean, when I go to the doctor, it's about my vitamins. I mean, like folic acid, I've always been low on, and they don't test. They don't run these tests to tell you. And it just seems like they're missing such an important piece of the puzzle when they don't. But I guess that's why you're here for us.
Yeah, just a different approach. We have a different approach, different toolboxes.
All right. Let's move on a little bit here again. And let's just kind of talk about, do you have tips to kind of feel more comfortable in your own skin? I mean, things that, just, it's a mindset. I believe it's just that mindset. But do you have any tips, that you work with your clients on or anything like that you can share today?
Oh, yeah. I love that question too. So I love strength training, and this is kind of like the hill that I will die on as far as what is going to make a difference in your health. And I just think using exercise as a way to get stronger and lift heavier, I think it can be really empowering for women. And I know it sounds like a little bit cheesy, but I'm also like, I just think you get so much out of it in the sense that like you're able to do hard things. You're able to do things you never thought you could do. And
build that confidence.
Yeah, 100%. And then I also think you can change how your body looks. And I also think building that muscle is so good for our hormones and just our overall happiness and healthiness and all that. So I'm a big fan of the muscle building. And like I was saying in the beginning, more muscle, more cookies. It does lead to a happier life. And then I think also, like, again, it's a little cheesy to say, but listening to your body, I think we as women, especially if like you're in this like perimenopause phase, we have gone so long not listening to our bodies and listening to diet culture and everything that's around us. Like you should be doing this
Yes.
diet. You should be
Newest
eating
fad.
this food. You shouldn't be eating this food. And I think there's a lot of mixed messages and confusion to the point where we don't know what to do. And we're questioning everything that we do.
And
I think,
things contradict each other.
oh my gosh,
Which is
all the
always,
time.
which is always like, why are we listening at all? Because, you know, tomorrow it's going to be the opposite. So let's just go back to healthy eating, like literally fruits and vegetables and, you know, get your fruit. I mean, it just seems so simple, but it's not. And
Right.
there's so much noise out there about everything.
Yeah. And I think it really is like, this is what we say to our clients is really like slowing down and just paying attention to how you feel. So something that we do with our clients that, you know, anybody can do is that when you eat a meal, 90 minutes-ish after that meal, like assess how you feel. Like, do you feel satisfied? Are you happy? Are you balanced? Are you hangry? Are you exhausted?
Right.
I just think slowing down and really just like listening, it's
The
like
basics.
cheesy and like a little woo, but I think it can just tell you so much about your food choices and how you're kind of living your life. So I know it's like cheesy and it's probably not the first thing that people want to hear, but I think it makes such a difference because we are all so different.
Oh, sorry. You froze for a minute. We'll just cut that out.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, just for a minute.
I'm
That's all
sorry.
good. No, that's fine. All right. Well, that was a great conversation. So, Tina, where can folks find you? Because I know they're going to have questions for you and I want them to reach out. So just lay it out. Where can we find you?
So I'm at carrotsandcake.com. So it's carrots, the letter N, and then cake.com.
Very
I'm
cute.
probably most active on Instagram. So if you do want to send me a message or find out more, Carrots and Cake on Instagram. And then I also have a podcast, same name, Carrots and Cake. I'm Carrots and Cake everywhere. So if you
Love
want
it.
to stalk me, YouTube channel, I have a cookbook. I have all sorts
Very
of stuff.
nice.
So, but Carrots and Cake everywhere.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I think this was such a great conversation, and I hope everyone at home enjoyed it as well. We will be back next week for another episode. Thanks for joining us today on She's Got It Together. It's been a real journey sharing and laughing with you all.
We hope you're walking away with a smile on your face and a bit more confidence in your step.
Remember, you're not alone in this crazy ride called life. We're all in this together, one day at a time.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and of course, share this podcast with all the incredible women in your life.
Join us next week for more stories, more laughs, and more real talk.
Until then, keep embracing your unique journey and remember, you've got it together more than you think.